Hello, dear friends. Today I bring you a tale that will captivate your heart and send shivers down your spine. It's the story of a breathtakingly beautiful girl named Sabina, a story of love, mystery, and fate that you won't want to miss. So, stay with me till the very end. Deep in the heart of Punjab lay a serene village called Gulistan, where time moved at its own slow, rhythmic pace. The narrow streets were lined with humble mud brick houses, endless fields stretched to the horizon, and a tranquil river whispered secrets on the village outskirts. The air carried the fragrance of blooming flowers, fresh earth, and the tantalizing aroma of spices drifting from kitchens, where life was deeply rooted in tradition and faith. Among the many families in Gulistan, one stood apart, the prosperous household of Ahmed, a well-respected businessman whose shop in the bustling bazaar was known far and wide. His store overflowed with exotic fabrics, fragrant spices, and household goods that drew people from distant villages. Ahmed was a man of integrity, admired for his wisdom, kindness, and unwavering honesty. 5 years ago, he had married Sabina, a woman whose beauty was the talk of the town. She came from an influential, wealthy family, where she had never known hardship. Her father, a powerful landowner, had ensured she was raised in luxury, shielded from the struggles of ordinary life. Her marriage to Ahmed was arranged, a seemingly perfect union that everyone believed was written in the stars. At first, Sabina was the ideal daughter-in-law, graceful, devoted, and respectful. Her mother-in-law, Amna, adored her as the daughter she never had. Together they shared moments of laughter, storytelling, and the secrets of family traditions. Their bond was strong, and their home was filled with warmth and harmony. Every morning, Sabina would wake early, helping Amna with the household chores, preparing breakfast with love, and ensuring Ahmed left for work with a carefully packed meal. The days seemed peaceful, the family seemingly perfect. But beneath the surface of this idyllic life, something was changing. A shadow loomed over their happiness, a whisper of secrets waiting to unravel. What lay ahead would shake the very foundation of their home, testing love, trust, and fate itself. As the sun cast its golden glow over the quiet village of Gulistan, life continued in its gentle rhythm. The women, bound by tradition and duty, spent their days caring for their children, sewing, and sharing laughter. But within the walls of Ahmed's home, something was changing, something subtle yet undeniable. Sabina, once the picture of devotion, was no longer the same. The simple joys of village life, which had once warmed her heart, now felt suffocating. The mud brick house that had once felt like a haven now seemed unbearably small. The scent of fresh earth and spices, once comforting, now reminded her of everything she had left behind. At first, the change was barely noticeable. A wistful sigh here, a distant gaze there. But as the days passed, her discontent grew. The grand home of her father, the luxurious silks, the glittering jewels, the servants who catered to her every whim, memories of her privileged past began to haunt her thoughts. The simplicity of Gulistan, the modesty of her new life, no longer felt like a blessing. To her, it felt like a cage. It started with words, small remarks laced with bitterness. She no longer listened to her mother-in-law's stories with the same eagerness, cutting them short with tales of her own, of lavish gatherings, elegant dresses, and the powerful people she once knew. Amna, sensing the shift, tried to bridge the growing distance, but Sabina withdrew further. Ahmed, too, noticed. The warmth in his wife's eyes had dimmed. The love and respect she once showered upon his family were fading, replaced by frustration, by longing for something more. He tried to reach her, to remind her of the love they had built, of the home they had created. "Sabina, we have everything we need," he told her gently one evening. But Sabina's voice was edged with resentment. "You don't understand, Ahmed. You grew up in this village. You don't know what it's like to have had everything, only to lose it. I feel trapped." The words stung. Ahmed had worked tirelessly to build a good life for his family, to provide love and stability. Yet, the woman he cherished now saw their life as a burden. He felt powerless, caught between his devotion to her and his duty to his parents. The tension in the household deepened. Sabina's patience with her in-laws waned, her words turning sharp, her tone cold. "You people live like it's still the old times," she snapped one day, her frustration spilling over. "Why can't you see that the world has changed? We deserve more. I deserve more." Amna, wounded by her daughter-in-law's growing disdain, tried to reason with her. "Sabina, my dear, wealth and luxury come and go, but family is what lasts." But Sabina was no longer willing to listen. The seed of pride had taken root, and with each passing day it grew stronger, overshadowing the love that once bound them together. And so the walls of their home, once filled with warmth and laughter, now echoed with silence, carrying the weight of an impending storm. Sabina was no longer the woman she once was. She spent hours locked away in her room, lost in dreams of the life she wished she had, or wandering through the village trying to escape the confines of the home that now felt like a prison. But in her pursuit of an illusion, she failed to see the pain she was leaving behind. Her children, Ali and Noor, once the center of her world, now felt like strangers in their own home. Where she had once been a warm and loving mother, she had become distant, impatient, and cold. Confused and heartbroken, the little ones clung to their grandmother Amna, searching for the love and comfort their mother no longer gave. Amna, despite her own sorrow, stepped in to fill the void. She told them stories, sang them lullabies, and held them close when they cried for their mother. But the burden was heavy. She was no longer young, and with every passing day, the weight of the household, the pain of Sabina's indifference, and the silent suffering of her son took a toll on her weakening body. And then, one fateful night changed everything. Ahmed's shop, the very foundation of his family's livelihood, was robbed. Under the cover of darkness, thieves broke in, stealing everything: goods, money, even the small savings he had tucked away for emergencies. When Ahmed arrived the next morning, expecting another day of hard work, he was met with devastation. His shop, once filled with life and laughter, now stood empty, stripped of everything he had built with his own hands. The news spread like wildfire. The proud, hard-working businessman of Gulistan was now a man with nothing. The loss wasn't just financial, it shattered his pride, his spirit, and the life he had struggled to provide for his family. For Sabina, the blow was even more unbearable. Her world had revolved around material wealth, around the comfort and status that money could buy. And now, everything was gone. The life of luxury she had once known was now a distant memory, and the harsh reality of poverty was something she could not accept. But instead of uniting with her family in this moment of despair, Sabina's response was one of fury and resentment. She lashed out at everyone, refusing to see her own reflection in the ruins of their life. She turned her anger on her in-laws, blaming them for being a burden, for holding her back from the life she believed she deserved. Her bitterness poisoned the very air in their home, and the walls that had once echoed with warmth and laughter now trembled under the weight of unspoken words and shattered dreams. But was this truly the end of their story? Or was fate preparing to take an even darker turn? Stay with me, dear friends, for there is more to be told. Now let me take you to another village, deep in the heart of Sindh, where golden wheat fields sway under the sun and ancient banyan trees whisper secrets of the past. A place called Mebad, where another tale of love, loss, and destiny awaits deep in the heart of Sindh, where golden wheat fields swayed under the scorching sun and ancient banyan trees whispered secrets of the past, lay the village of Mebad, a place untouched by time, where every dusty lane and every clay brick house held stories of generations gone by, stories of honor, sacrifice, and fate. Among the many families in Mebad, one name stood above the rest, the family of Karim. Karim was more than just a wealthy man. He was a figure of wisdom, a pillar of generosity, and a leader whose words carried weight far beyond his home's tall wooden gates. From humble beginnings as a farmer to a successful trader, he had built a life of prosperity not just for himself, but for the entire village. His house, the largest in Mebad, was a symbol of his legacy. A sprawling courtyard, a grand veranda where village elders gathered to discuss matters of importance, and doors always open to those in need. But of all his achievements, his greatest pride was his youngest son, Irtaza. Unlike his brothers, Irtaza had been given a rare privilege, an education in Karachi, the bustling city where the lights never dimmed, and dreams reached for the sky. He returned with a degree in business administration and a mind brimming with modern ideas, ready to elevate the family's legacy to even greater heights. Karim had no doubt his son was destined for greatness. But when Irtaza came back to Mebad, he didn't come alone. With him was Aisha. Aisha, the woman who had stolen his heart amidst university corridors, late-night study sessions, and whispered dreams of a future together. She was a vision, beautiful, intelligent, and fiercely independent. But she was also a city girl, raised in the heart of Karachi, where life moved at a pace Mebad could never match. Their wedding was the grandest the village had ever seen. For days the air echoed with the rhythmic beats of dolls, the fragrance of roses, and the joyous laughter of celebration. Aisha was welcomed with open arms, especially by Karim, who saw in her the perfect partner for his beloved son. But as the festivities faded and reality settled in, Aisha found herself in a world far removed from everything she had ever known. Mebad was different, too different. The morning started with the melodic call of the azan from the village mosque, followed by the quiet rustling of women preparing breakfast over firewood. Life moved slowly, almost as if time itself had paused. The simplicity, once charming, soon began to feel suffocating. And though no one saw it yet, a storm was beginning to brew, one that would shake the very foundations of the family's legacy. What happens when two worlds collide, when love is tested by the weight of tradition? Mebad, a village frozen in time, where golden fields stretched endlessly, and traditions ran deeper than the roots of the ancient banyan trees. Here, life moved to the rhythm of nature. The mornings echoed with the call to prayer, men ventured into the fields or the bustling market, and women, draped in modest attire, prepared meals over crackling firewood. By afternoon, the village lay still under the unforgiving sun, and as night fell, elders sat beneath the open sky recounting tales of old while children played barefoot in the dust. But amidst this timeless world, a new presence stirred: Aisha. She was not like the village women, nor did she belong to their quiet, obedient world. Born and raised in Karachi, a city that never slept, she had lived a life of independence, studying, working, socializing without restraint. But here in Mebad, her reality had changed. The grand city lights had been replaced with oil lamps, the sound of traffic with the silence of open fields, and the freedom she once knew was now confined within the tall walls of her husband's ancestral home. Aisha had tried. She really had. She learned to cook the family's traditional dishes, dressed as expected, and played the role of a dutiful wife and daughter-in-law. But no matter how much she tried to blend in, she always felt like an outsider. The village women watched her with wary eyes, whispering about her modern ways. Their smiles were polite, but their distance spoke volumes. And then, there was Irtaza. He had promised her love, adventure, and a life together. Yet he failed to see the silent war she was fighting within herself. Engrossed in his work, eager to expand the family business, he assumed she would adapt, just like every other woman in his family had before her. But Karim saw it. The head of the family, wise beyond his years, noticed how Aisha's laughter had faded, how her once bright eyes now held only sadness. He tried to ease her transition, offering small freedoms, including her in decisions, even shielding her from the rigid traditions that bound the household. But despite his efforts, he knew Aisha was slipping away, piece by piece. Isolation grew into suffocation. Days turned into weeks, and the loneliness within Aisha deepened. The village children hesitated to approach her, sensing the invisible barrier between them. The women, though never cruel, never fully welcomed her. Even the house, large, imposing, rich in history, felt less like a home and more like a cage. And then the breaking point arrived. Something was about to happen, something that would change everything. But was it fate, or Aisha's own doing? Stay with me, dear friends, for the true story is just beginning. Aisha had always been a woman of her own mind, bold, independent, and unafraid to carve her own path. But here, in Mebad, she was expected to be something else entirely. As the daughter-in-law of a prestigious family, her role was clear. She was to manage the household, uphold the family's honor, and serve as a model for the other women of the village. Yet the expectations weighed on her like an iron cage. Her once loving relationship with Irtaza had begun to crack under the strain. The man she had fallen in love with, the one who had promised her a future filled with adventure and possibility, was now a stranger, lost in the demands of tradition and duty. Irtaza was consumed by his work, blind to the silent storm raging within his wife. He believed she was simply adjusting, that in time, she would embrace village life just as he had. But Aisha felt suffocated. She longed for Karachi, the city where she had thrived, where life pulsed with energy, and where she had the freedom to be herself. The sprawling fields, the quiet afternoons, the scrutinizing eyes of the villagers, they were all closing in on her, turning her marriage into a battleground of unmet expectations and simmering resentment. "You don't understand, Irtaza," she would plead, her voice laced with desperation. "I miss my family, my friends, my life. I am not like the women here. I need more." "And I'm giving you more," Irtaza would snap back, frustration creeping into his tone. "I'm working hard to build a life for us here. Why can't you see that?" Each argument ended the same way, silence. He would retreat to his work, and she would retreat into herself. And then, everything changed. Aisha discovered she was pregnant. For a moment, the storm between them quieted. Irtaza was overjoyed, his excitement breathing new life into their strained relationship. The women of the village, who had once kept their distance, now surrounded Aisha with warmth, offering advice, sharing stories, and showering her with care. For the first time since coming to Mebad, Aisha felt a connection to something greater than her loneliness. But was it enough? Could the promise of motherhood anchor her to a life she had never truly chosen? Or was the storm only beginning? For the first time since arriving in Mebad, Aisha felt a sense of belonging. Holding her newborn son, Hassan, in her arms, she was overwhelmed with an emotion she hadn't felt in months: purpose. The weight of loneliness that had clung to her since leaving Karachi seemed to lift, if only for a moment. The entire village rejoiced at Hassan's birth. A son, a male heir, was seen as a blessing, a symbol of strength and continuity. The women of the village surrounded Aisha with warmth, showering her with care and advice, celebrating her as a mother. But the joy was short-lived. As the days passed, the responsibilities of motherhood grew heavier. The once attentive village women returned to their own lives, leaving Aisha to navigate the exhausting cycle of feeding, soothing, and sleepless nights, alone. Irtaza, often away on business, was oblivious to the silent battle his wife was fighting. Aisha longed for her mother, her sisters, the safety net she had once taken for granted. In Karachi, there had always been someone to share the burden, to offer a moment of respite. But here, in Mebad, the expectations of a mother were unyielding. There was no pause, no escape. As Hassan grew, so did Aisha's worries. The lack of proper medical care in the village gnawed at her. Every fever, every cry in the night sent fear coursing through her veins. What if something happened? What if she couldn't protect him? She had sacrificed so much, her freedom, her dreams, her very sense of self, for this life. But was it enough? Or was she slowly losing herself one lonely day at a time?